So in this video, we're looking at the symbolism of Jezebel, right? We know she's a bad person in Scripture, but what is it that we're supposed to learn about Jezebel that applies to our lives? And to illustrate this, I hope you enjoy this because I've got this story about some cheating American school teachers that illustrate to us kind of how Jezebel works and how we can watch out for her in our own life. Hi, my name is Todd, and well, where to begin? Let's start with the school teachers because this is an interesting story, at least I think so. Basically what happened was the U.S. had passed some laws, this is 10 or 15 years ago, and they were trying to help incentivize teachers to be better teachers. The idea was, well, if they have all these standardized tests, and if teachers can get their students to perform better on these tests, they'll get more pay. On the flip side, if, well, the teachers are performing poorly, and therefore the students are performing poorly, the teachers will get low pay. And if the whole school is performing poorly on these tests, well, then they'll close the school. So now at a certain level, this sounds okay, reward those who are doing well and punish those who are doing worse. But I was telling this to my 14-year-old son, and even he kind of gets how this can go wrong. Because what have you done now is you've incentivized teachers to get better grades for their students, kind of no matter what the cost, right? Well, that's where we flip to our story in the Bible. King Ahab wants Naboth's vineyard. It's right next to the palace. He says, Naboth, let me buy this from you, or I'll even swap you out for a better vineyard somewhere else, but I'd like this one that's right next to my palace. Naboth says, no thanks, no can do, Jehovah forbids it. This isn't a discussion, it's not a negotiation. He's just like, nope, can't do it. So King Ahab goes back to his palace and he sulks. When his wife sees him there, she says, hey, what's the matter? And he says, well, Naboth wants some of the vineyard. And she says, what? She says, hey, you're the king. Is this how the king acts? You are the king. So we see right here, what is Jezebel? She is justification, right? You're the king. You can do whatever you want. Don't worry about what the old law says. You're the king. So she justifies the action. She says, don't worry about it. I'll tell you what, I will get the vineyard for you. I'll handle it. So what she does is she goes and writes letters in Ahab's name and uses Ahab's seal to have Naboth framed. And he's framed and he's stoned for a crime he didn't commit. And this is stoning as in like not drugs kind of stone. He's not happy. He's stoned to death. He's throwing rocks at him till he dies. So Naboth is killed. Jezebel is the justification. She's working in Ahab's name, but Ahab has plausible deniability because he didn't actually do it. And this is often how our justification works. Ahab knows the rules of the land, but he has somebody else here to kind of do the dirty work for him. And often that's how we approach things. Because in the case of these teachers, they said, well, wait a second, it's not my fault if my students don't try very hard, right? Look, I've been uninterested in certain classes I've taken and not put forth my best effort. So the teachers go, well, it's not my fault that this kid's not trying hard, or it's not my fault this kid just isn't very bright. Let's face it, some of us are brighter than others and they take easier to certain subjects. It's not my fault if this kid maybe has problems at home and he can't study. His parents are going through a divorce or something like that. So the teachers say, well, what we'll do is we'll just inflate the grades. And so the teachers would either, give the answers on a whiteboard so that the students could write it down, or in some cases the teachers would get the test scores or the test papers back, they'd erase the wrong answers and put in the correct ones. So the students got a good score and the teachers got a good reward. Everybody wins. Well, except for the fact is that there were some obvious tells that this was going on. Little Johnny isn't very good at, say, the English class, and then one year, boom, his scores go up, and the next year his scores go down. So people start to pick up on these anomalies and say, hey, are these teachers cheating? Well, in our Bible story, Ahab goes to collect the vineyard, take control of it, right? He's got it. Naboth is dead. And he's feeling pretty good about himself, much like those teachers were when these students got the good grades. But what happens to Ahab is that Elijah shows up. And Elijah, he's a very down-to-earth, direct guy. He says, what? He says, you've killed a man and stolen his property. No matter what excuses and reasonings Jezebel may have conjured up, Elijah just cuts right to the truth. You've killed a man and stolen his property. And what happened with these school teachers is that one woman stood up and said, I'm going to cooperate with the investigators, because while we might have had the reasons for doing what we're doing, the fact is I know that what I've done is wrong. I know that it isn't right. Cuts straight to the truth, kills off all the justification, just smashes it and says what we've done isn't right. And so the lesson for us in these stories is we have to watch out for Jezebel, because when we are justifying our actions that we know are right, but we're finding some legal loophole or some sort of way to say, oh, this isn't so bad. What's happening there is, well, Jezebel is saying, you're the king, I'm going to write some letters for you, I'm going to use your stamp and seal and get this all done. I'm going to make it happen for you. And we like it when we get what we want, right? We like that very much. So we're kind of happy to let Jezebel do our dirty work. But when we do, guess what happens, right? Elijah comes along and says, man, this is not happening. This is going to end poorly for you. You and Jezebel are going to die. And I think the final lesson you can take from this story is, well, what does God care about more? Does he care about process, or does he care about outcome? We often get very attached to outcomes, right? Naboth wants his vineyard. The teacher wants her job, or wants the school to stay open, or wants some better pay. She wants an outcome. And what God says is, don't worry about the outcome. Worry about the process. So there you have it. There's the lesson for today. I think my dad would be so happy if he heard me say one of his favorite lines. It's from a Civil War general who says, duty is ours, consequences belong to God. So keep that in mind. It's not the outcome that matters, it's the process. If you can do that, you can avoid having Jezebel write letters for you and take over your kingdom. Well, there you have it. All the best. Thanks so much for watching. God bless.